All right, good morning and welcome to this month's Morning on the Porch. My name is Savannah and I'm the Administrative Director for Yosemite Sierra Summer Camp. And before we get started, I just want to give a few just housekeeping details as we go through this Mornings on the Porch conversation. Any questions that you might have, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. We will answer questions at the end of our conversation. This also is a recorded conversation, so you will have access to this recording as well as many others as we get closer to the end. So just know that you'll see a reminder email, and you'll have the recording as well as access to the others. And without further ado, let me introduce our two hosts. So we have Sarah Coolius, who is owner and executive director, as well as Jessica Peterson, who is the associate director. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to them.
Great. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So I am Sarah Salsa Coolius, as the kids will know me. And this is Jessica Sprinkles Peterson. We go by nicknames at camp. If you're a returning family, you know that. So if you tell your kids this morning, hey, I saw Salsa and Sprinkles on
Please
the Zoom.
do. Please tell them.
Give them our very best today. Well, thank you so much for spending a half an hour with us today, or if you're watching the recording. We call this Mornings on the Porch because early mornings at camp in the summer, staff will gather on the porch to talk about the day, to plan together, to pray together, to get on the same page so we can create the best experience of growth for our campers. And in this space, once a month, for this last year, it's been a year that we've been doing Mornings on the Porch. We invite parents to join us in that space to answer your questions, to help you understand the intentionality behind our program, and to better support you in getting your camper ready for camp. So Sprinkles, tell us about our topic today.
Yes, let's dive in. Man, there is nothing like the first time experience of coming to camp. You know, everybody has first time jitters. Your kids have first time jitters. You might even have more first time jitters than they do. We'll talk about that next month. But everyone's excited, and then you welcome them home and you get to watch as the growth that they experience over those 2 weeks just unfold in the coming days and weeks, along with stories and anecdotes and all those wonderful things. But what about the next time? What about coming back a second summer or a third summer or a fourth, sixth, fifth, sixth, seventh summer? And so that's what we're talking about this morning, the power of returning to camp. So much support and research goes into the impact of returning to camp, to coming back. And so our parents can often ask the question, is it worthwhile to come back again? Spoiler, our answer is yes, it absolutely is. There is so many worthwhile benefits to coming back to camp. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about this morning, and we're excited to dive in. YSSC's mission, you've probably heard us say it before. If this is your first year, second year, third year on, is to provide an experience of God's love that really shapes the whole child. So we're talking about whole child development. They're growing in character, skills, relationships, and faith. That's our mission, if you haven't heard us say that before. And so that's what actually really distinguishes YSSC and experience at YSSC from maybe a stellar sports camp or a school camp, is that whole child development and growth. And we are crazy about that whole child development and growth, and we're going to talk about that more in just a moment. But that kind of growth, man, it's one of the reasons why our sessions are 2 weeks long. That is a tall order for 1 week of camp. And so we are unashamed in loving our 2 week long sessions. But it's also a tall order for just a one-time moment, a one-time experience. And so when we have our campers come back year after year, we love it because we get to see them grow up, which is one of the joys of our experience at camp. But also our families get to watch as that kind of whole child development unfolds year after year. So um, that's what we're talking about this morning, the power of returning to camp. We're so glad you're here this morning with us. Sarah, we've got a couple examples of some of the ways that we see the benefit of returning to camp year after year. So why don't you get us started?
I sure will. So make sure you have your tea or coffee in hand. We're going to highlight just 4 areas, 4 benefits that we see in campers returning to camp. And there are many more. If you've got a camper who's been to YSSC before, ask them. They may list different things. But some of our favorites and some that we see create the biggest benefit and impact are, well, the first one I want to point out is confidence building. You know, when you are in a space for the first time, it might be finding your way to a meeting for the first time or a first time on a trip. You know, we all are a little bit tentative. You know, where are the stairs? Where's the elevator? Do I have the directions right? You know, how's the food? Will I make a friend? Well, our first time campers feel that same way. It's such a brave, courageous step to go to camp for the first time. Will I like my counselor? Will they like me? Where's the bathroom? You know, it's like when you're learning to dance, you watch your feet until you really get the steps down and then you dance. Well, that's what we see in our campers. Their first year is so powerful. They learn and grow so much. And when they return for that second year or the third or fourth or fifth or sixth, they come in with a confidence that really fuels their growth. They have an expectation. They're looking forward to things. And they also, in new ways, are looking inward. That experience of how will I grow this year? I want to try that new thing. I love that confidence and expectancy. We see that show up in how they engage with the adults in the space. We see that confidence as they engage in making new friends. I love that leadership opportunity, which is informal, but for a returning camper to teach a new camper in their cabin the ropes, even if they're a 10-year-old, I'll show you where the health center is. Oh, come with me. I know where the canteen is. It's just delightful to have them be the ambassador. When can a 10-year-old get to be an ambassador? It's their moment, right? I also love how returning campers get to take advantage of our progressive programming. Our Unit 1s, our 3rd through 6th graders, they have so many new experiences, and they get to tackle the low ropes course. As they grow into middle school or high school, they get more and more challenging high ropes elements. They may start behind a ski boat, just banana boating or maybe knee boarding, but as they come back, they get to try out that wakeboard. Perhaps my favorite progressive programming element we have has to do with our experience in nature and in the wilderness. So our Unit 1 campers, our youngsters, get to have a beautiful day hikes in Yosemite Valley. As they move into middle school, they get a little more expansive 3-day camp out experience. And then by the time they're in high school, they get to go on that 3-day introductory backpack and they're ready for it. So, man, confidence building is just a key to returning to camp. And also, don't we all love returning to places that are special for us?
Absolutely. I do.
I do.
So why? Back. Another incredible aspect of returning to camp is, man, that role model piece that our staff get to play in the lives of our campers year after year. So it's no secret, there's lots of research behind it. When kids are young, that parental voice, whoever that is in their life, is kind of it's that primary teaching influential voice. And as they grow older, we begin to see that they are surrounded by more voices of influence that begin to vie for their attention. And many of those voices are positive, but some of those voices, have different influences in their life. And so when they get to come to camp and they have these, groovy, stellar young adults that they think are just the most incredible people on the planet, get to reinforce all of the lessons that you long for them to learn. Man, you get that partner in your parenting. There was one mom, we adore, she actually ended up recording a video for us, and Savannah can link that video in the chat. But one mom, I love the way she said it. She talked about the cool factor, and she's like, somehow, shockingly, I have lost the cool factor as a mom, even to my 8-year-old son, And so when your kid comes to camp, year after year, they get this reinvigoration from young adults who have the cool factor in truckloads, who get to reinforce just all of the things that you're longing for them to grow in and learn and experience. And so that's a huge aspect where these young adults get to just continually speak into the lives of our campers year after year.
I love that so much. I love that. Appreciate those additional voices in our kids'
We all need them.
Yeah, especially when they can't hear me anymore. I think one of the my favorite benefits, another fabulous benefit of returning to camp, is renewed friendships. We work hard. It's important to us to build cabin groups where there are perhaps a friend a camper came with, but also brand new people to meet, because we know that friendship building and keeping skills are really important part of the development at camp. And so when a camper returns and maybe plans with a friend they were in a cabin with the year before to come back to the same session and to request to be with each other again, that relationship gets to flourish. And, those shared experiences, the accountability, that outside perspective through the school year, then when I may have had my feelings hurt at school and I'm feeling like I'm not connecting, to have that other friend to remind me who I am and to affirm me and to walk with me until I get my feet back under me, perhaps back at school, is such a valuable piece. I know even when I was a camper, there were 3 girls in my cabin for 4 years in a row. And we all ended up at each other's weddings, and 2 of the now women that we're all still in touch, and their kids have come and worked at camp all these years later. So wow, that rekindling of friendship in that space is profoundly impactful.
Yeah, it's so good. I love hearing from our parents when they marvel at, their camper, friendship relationships that end up all over the United States, because many of our campers come from California, but many of them also come from out of state. So it's a really special aspect of reconvening at camp. Last thing that I'll say is the incredible influence of returning to camp on a camper's faith. And so, this unique experience of coming to camp, there's so much in this opportunity to step away from the day-to-day life, especially step away from the influence of technology, and get to unplug and experience God, develop awe and wonder in this unique setting away from home, and then getting to return. And that's an incredible one-time experience. But man, when you come back to that experience, that actually transforms that camper's faith experience. away from just this one time unique special experience to actually this experience of being equipped year after year. And so when they continue to go to camp, and step away from kind of the day-to-day pressure, and also just develop their own experience of God and faith and questions, and then they experience that nurturing, environment that gets to build that faith in that unique setting. And then it equips them to come back home, and so they get to bring that back home, and then they enter that fall school year, with that much more bolstering in their own personal faith, their experience, their understanding of who God is, their relationship. And so that returning aspect really transforms that unique, maybe one-off experience into actually this year after year equipping, to come back and really infuse their day-to-day life, with their, invigorated faith. So
it really is that bump up in personal ownership of their own faith, not just the one I'm borrowing or, feeling pulled into because of my parents or my youth pastor. That is wonderful.
Right.
And then to know that, oh, and this is also just mine.
Yes. Yeah. It's really special. So, well, we could continue to talk about all the benefits of coming to camp year after year, but we do actually have a special guest that I would like to bring on with us. This is a parent who has sent her daughter to YSSC for now several years. Please welcome up Sarah. And I'm sure Popcorn is giving us all the technical abilities. Great. Sarah, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes. Welcome. We're so glad you're here this morning.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yes. Well, great. Well, I have a couple questions for you. We can share all of our experience and thoughts surrounding this, but it's always so wonderful to hear from a parent with lived experience, getting to watch this unfold in your daughter, Vivian. So before I jump into a couple questions, why don't you just share with us a little bit about your daughter, Vivian, how many years she's been coming to camp?
She's been there. She got her 5th year blanket last summer. So this summer will be her 6th year. She loves it. She loves camp. It brings out the best in her. She's 15, turning 16 in March. She's very athletic, very independent, very intelligent child. It can be very intense at times. And she loves, I have to say this again, loves YSSC. The first words out of her mouth when she gets off the bus to come home are, and I'm going back. It's not even, can I go back? When are you registering me? And I'm like, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, well, we have loved getting to watch Vivian grow up through the years.
Yeah.
It's been really special. So why don't you, I mean, you started to tell us a little bit, but why don't you tell us a little bit about, why your family has chosen to invest in Vivian coming to YSSC year after year? What's been some of the benefit that you've seen, in Vivian's life by returning to camp?
I feel like I'm going to reiterate everything that you both shared. Definitely it's the growth, the learning, the personal development. My sense is, she'll come to camp and then she gets to face challenges at camp. And as she's there, she's encouraged. She's encouraged to go through those challenges, which she then can bring home and use in her day-to-day here when she's in high school, when she's with us. She just comes home with a stronger sense of who she is. When I see her get off that bus, it's like she's standing up taller inside of herself. She's shinier somehow. She's had an opportunity, I think, to retreat for 2 weeks, to get to know herself better. And it's the encouragement and learning that she is capable, that she's capable of whatever life is going to give her. And she just loves it. I mean, she embraces it wholeheartedly. And I think we love that she is embraced wholeheartedly as she is at camp.
So special. I love what you said. It's like she's standing up taller.
She is. She is. I mean, everything the both of you shared, I feel like I've just sat here and ticked that box because that is our experience of Vivian. That's her experience of being there.
It's so encouraging. And she is a camper that also jumps in wholeheartedly too. And so it's so fun to watch her, just thrive being at camp. Well, this is a similar question. But I'm curious, particularly as Vivian's been entering into her high school years, what's been some of the benefit that you've seen for Vivian coming to camp, even in the midst of her high school years? As we know, high school years, there can be so many different competing, commitments between sports and, school prep and all of that. So what's been some of the benefits that you've seen in her, particularly over the last couple years in high school?
Well, I think I'll reiterate again. I know for sure the skills, the learning, the development. I sense that it's relevant to the age that she is. So when she was 10 and she first came, and you shared it, Sarah, that, they do things that are age appropriate. And then each summer you build on the age they are, and they're introduced to more skills, to more challenges. And we just feel it's built upon itself year after year. So each time she comes in, she gets to grow a little bit more. She gets to learn a little bit more. It's like that foundation started in her first year, and then progressively, she just keeps thriving. And it's her development, her maturity. Camp changes her. It changes her in ways that I don't know that I have the words to describe. Definitely there's leadership. She has certainly shown more leadership as she's been in high school, on her soccer team, in some of her classes. Being away from screens and social media at this age is huge. And she said it herself. I asked her last night, and she said that one of the greatest things for her is that she knows it's okay to spend time away from social media. Because she has done it for 2 weeks, she knows that she doesn't have to spend time on social media. She can be free from it. She can make that choice for herself and not look at her screen or her phone, which I'm thrilled to hear as a parent. And I think she's met with a level of kindness and compassion when she's there, and that teaches her to be kinder and more compassionate. Viv is very intense. She's quite smart, and I think at times she kind of, maybe tolerance isn't her best skill set. But being there and coming through each summer, you're being in a cabin with different girls. You're learning how to be and interact, right, with different people. You have to be more accepting. You've got to be more open. My sense is they get to do some conflict resolution. And then they get to grow together, right? There's that growing together, and it's always done in loving. That, more than anything, I think that's what really comes home to me, is there's not a lot of finger pointing. It's a personal responsibility, which you guys shared. And then it's a loving, just a loving acceptance, a loving growing. There is actually a way to do all of these things through loving, instead of maybe through a more negative way, which I feel the rest of the world sometimes. I feel a lot of our influence is negative. So I feel her 2 weeks at camp, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, it's a very positive, loving experience for her. And it's an opportunity to see that she can actually live that way. Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. So
Mhm.
beautifully put.
Mhm.
If I can just, for a couple seconds, talk a little bit more about that impact of camp on campers in high school. I certainly experienced that myself. My kids did, but sometimes as parents, we get really anxious, especially for maybe rising ninth graders, to so prepare them for high school, that they're taking lots of summer school classes and they're on that new campus a lot, and they've got to be on that one team so that they'll be so successful in high school. And I remember that anxiousness for my kids, and I appreciate that. And I just as you described, Vivian coming home a little taller, use the word shinier. I love that. And getting to know herself better. I would suggest, and we've seen it actually time and time again, that camp actually can prepare and equip our high school kids in ways that being in summer school cannot. And you named some of them already, Sarah, that are so meaningful to me. And that grounded identity. Who am I? Who do I get to be? And how do I hold my ground, maybe against negative peer pressure, or, those hard decisions that peers are pushing me to? How do I stand my ground in a kind and loving way? How do I be and choose better friends? Right? How do I interact with adults even in better ways? How do I continue to develop new skills, try new things, not get afraid to try new things? And how do I bounce back when I might have failed or didn't do as well as I thought, right? That bounce back muscle, so important. And then I think also, how do I live out my faith with my peers in a practical way, to be able to practice that for a couple weeks before going into high school or going back to high school, I think can be really important as we try to support our teenagers and continuing to grow character skills, relationships, and faith in that space. So I just would, ask that we never underestimate the impact of camp on a high schooler's life. Wow, I remember actually a few years ago, a high school camper got off the bus returning to camp, and she ran to me, threw her arms around me, and she's like, Salsa, I just need to come back to camp every year. It's like a tune-up. And as we talked a little more, she was starting to drive and was learning what a tune-up was. But what a perfect description. I just needed a tune-up. Remember who I was, how to live out my faith, how to be that friend, how to bounce back. It's quite impactful. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining us. We're so grateful for, your words and your perspective, and it's wonderful to get to see you again. Please tell Vivian we say hello.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to transition to our Q&A portion. We've certainly shared our perspective, so we'd love to hear, Popcorn or Savannah, what questions have our families put in the question and answer?
Yeah, of course. I have a couple questions, some that are pretty common when parents call, so it's great to answer some of these with you too. The first question is, parents love giving their kids new experiences, and this parent wants to know, like, well, if their child comes back, what is a new experience that they'll be able to experience at camp?
Sure.
You want to go?
Sure. And then you just chime in whatever I forget. So this is definitely a common question. Does something change? Is it just the exact same 2 weeks every summer? And the answer is no, it is not the exact same. So we always try to strike that balance, because campers both desire for it to be the exact same way that they experienced it this summer. They want, they'll notice the smallest little things that we tweak, and they're like, how come that's different? What did you do here? So they both desire, for it to be the exact same, and yet also long to see what new and wild and zany thing, appears at camp. And so we try to find that balance. Really, it's that appreciation of the traditions and milestones that they come to expect at camp. So we've got these wonderful camp traditions, like we're always going to sing them this camp lullaby before they go to bed every night. They cherish that so much. So that's a tradition that will always be the same. We have many of the fan favorite activities that they long to come back and progress in. So they're, they might have gotten beginner archery certification their first year, and then their second year, perhaps they'll go to intermediate, so there's some of those things that they love to return to that we keep, the same, or, we give opportunities to grow in. But also every summer there's a new theme. We have different speakers that come and talk about their life and faith and God. We have lots of different elements that get infused into some of our activities. We'll have a different craft. Many years we have perhaps a new activity or different staff that teach it with different challenge and experience. They have a different cabin group. They have a different counselor. And so there's lots of things that stay the same. Some of those milestones, Sarah mentioned Vivian receiving her 5-year blanket. We have that tradition of campers who have attended with us for 5 years, that they get honored with this special blanket. And it's become a really cherished milestone for a lot of our older campers, which is really dear. So there's lots of things that that tradition, stays the same, but then lots of things that are different that keep that coming to camp feel like a new and fresh experience.
I think I would just add one thing, and that's our campers come back new and different every year.
Absolutely.
I come back ready to hear things differently, contribute in new ways. I'm open to different things. I've had, depending on how my year at school was, I have different needs. I had different gifts,
different interests.
So it's always new. And even for us, every summer is different. So don't feel like, oh, it's the same old, same old. It never will be. Yeah, that's a good question.
Too many exciting things to be the same old, same old.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just a couple more questions. This next one kind of touches on what you guys were sharing around prepping for high school. Say that this camper has some high school prep classes and needs to switch a session. How does that work? And this parent wants to know if it's even possible to change their schedule around revolving prep classes.
Sure, that's a great question. And it happens often for like our 8th, 9th, 10th, rising 11th graders for sure. So if it's space, depending on space available, all you got to do is email or call the office. If you register your camper for session 3 right now, or session 4, and you find out in March, oh man, actually session 1's the only one that's going to work for us. That's just fine, space available. And also, even if it's tight, we will work very hard to get a camper switched to a different session. Just email or call. Savannah's magical about making that. So it's really a pretty easy switcheroo. So don't assume we can't come on all. We'll totally work with you.
I'm glad that question came up because that's perfect. You'll be speaking with Savannah.
Well, last question. This parent said, my son wants to come back to camp and be with the boys that he was with last year, but he does not remember their last names. How does this parent go about requesting these boys?
I love that. The amount of calls that we'll get, that's like, you want someone named Johnny? Yes. Okay. We will look into who Johnny is. Yeah, absolutely. Again, the answer, the quick answer is call the office. We are very available and accessible. We love to receive phone calls and help our parents navigate that camper request form. So our forms go out in about March, April-ish. You'll get an email for it. And there is this camper request form or a bunk request form. And so you can always, type in a name. And if you're having a hard time remembering who that camper is, one, you can call the office and we can look up who is in your cabin and try to do a little bit of detective work alongside you to figure out who that camper is. Also, your camper should have received a memory book, kind of like a yearbook, but for their session at the end of their time at camp. And so in that is a whole roster of who was in their cabin. So you can always dig that out and look that camper up, or you can call us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm going to pin myself to give our ending remarks. But right now we are closing in on our early bird savings. So that gets you $150 off of summer tuition. That does end on January 31st. So we hope that you are listening and you're able to enroll to gain those savings. Take advantage of it because time is a ticking. And next, we have some great resources that you can find on our website, but also you're able to get through an email through Constant Contact. It is our digital brochure and our ebook. So we have sent this out to all of our returning families, and we'll send out this email again. So if you have a friend or you have someone on your child's sports team who wants to come to camp, this is a great resource to send to them so they can get to know us more and we can get to know them more when they reach out. And lastly is to just mark your calendar for the next Morning on the Porch, which is February 28th. It is a great topic. It's my child is ready for sleepaway camp, but am I ready? And that is just a great question to just think about. And we will be sharing great research, and we will just be talking about all the conversations we've had with parents who have asked that same question. So join us on February 28th.
I am personally very excited for that conversation. We have had so many wonderful conversations with parents over the years about their own personal readiness. It is a big jump for even our parents. So I'm personally very excited, but I do want to give a small heads up for those of you who have joined us every month and have come to expect Sarah and I on the screen. I may or may not be joining us because I am currently 8.5 months pregnant and my due date is right around February 28th. And so we'll see. It's anyone's guess if I will be here or not. But if I'm not, you will know why.
And don't worry, she will be back for the summer with a new happy camper.
Yes.
On
Our
her head.
newest YSSC camper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but don't worry, I will have another awesome co-pilot. So we'll look forward to seeing you in February.
All righty. Thank you for joining us.